Good day to members of the media and the listening public. Bermuda's economic expansion eased in the second quarter of 2025. During the second quarter of 2025, the economy abated by an estimated 1.2% year over year after adjusting for inflation. The economic contraction was a direct result of a decline in Bermuda's trade balance due to an increase in imports and a reduction in government spending. In contrast, gross domestic product by expenditure and current prices increased by 0.7% year over year. Consumer spending in the second quarter was recorded at $841 million. Household consumption increased by 1% year over year. Household consumption of services increased by 0.1%, reflecting higher expenditure on personal care services and transportation services. Spending on non-durable and semi-durable goods increased by 4.1%, due largely to increased spending on occupied personal goods, fuel and power, and non-alcoholic beverages. Employment income in the second quarter was 6.5% above 2024 levels. Employment income in the following industries all increased in the second quarter of 2025. Public administration, 19.9%, international business, 8.2%, construction, 5.5%, hotels and restaurants, 4.8%, business services, 2.4%. While contractions were recorded in wholesale and retail trade and transportation and communication sectors. The island hosted 67,685 tourist air visitors during the second quarter of 2025, up from 67,121 in the second quarter of 2024. Government expenditure decreased by 3.8% during the quarter, as declines in expenditures of goods and services more than offset increased spending on wages and salaries. Investments rose by 5.1% to $222 million. Gross capital formation of machinery and equipment and construction both increased by 5.1%. Investment in machinery and equipment increased due to higher imports of agricultural and industrial machinery. Bermuda's trade balance declined by 7.1% to $417.9 million, as growth in payments for the imports of goods and services outpaced the growth of receipts for the export of goods and services. Exports of goods and services decreased by 0.9% during the quarter, while imports of goods and services rose by 4.8%. Bermuda's business ecosystem remained robust, and in terms of total local business registrations, there were 32 new local business registered during the second quarter of 2025. This brought the local business register to 4,048, up 2.3% over the total local businesses registered in Q2 of 2024. The government continues to facilitate the economic expansion and stability of Bermuda's economy by creating a business environment that allows businesses to thrive. The government will continue to execute the strategic initiatives outlined in Bermuda's economic development strategy to ensure that Bermuda experiences sustainable economic growth and development. For more information, please review the Q2 2025 quarterly GDP by expenditure publication available at the Department of Statistics online at gov.bm. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. At this time, we welcome the media to ask any questions they may have.
Thank you, Minister, for your remarks. Elisa Bernardo with Bermuda Broadcasting. My first question, you cited 32 new local businesses registered in the second quarter of last year. I wonder how many of those businesses are from within the international business sector, or are they mostly small startups?
And so the local businesses, we can give you that particular breakdown. But if you have any additional questions, you can continue to answer, and I'll give you the answer to the local business
Okay,
breakdown.
thank you. My second question was in regard to employment income increases. There was a near 20% increase in the public administration industry. That seems quite sizable. What do you attribute that to?
And so as it pertains to the wages and salaries of public administration, you would know that public officers did receive salary uplifts. And as a result of that, that is reflected in the statistics that I presented to you today.
Okay.
As it pertains to business registration, when we talk about the 32 local businesses, those will be businesses in our domestic economy and not exempted companies.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. There has been consistent growth in the insurance and reinsurance sectors, which obviously has broader benefits to the community. But is there also a danger of a widening wealth gap in Bermuda?
Well, when we see the uptick in employment income across multiple industrial sectors, it means that salaries are progressing not just within the international business sector, but within other sectors of the economy as well. As it pertains to the overall wealth gap, I don't believe the statistics presented today reflect that the wealth gap is widening in Bermuda.
Okay. And on upcoming projects regarding the Fairmont Southampton, are you able to describe how significant its reopening will be in terms of boosting the local economy?
It is extremely significant. If you look at the contribution of tourism to our overall economy, it is less than 5% right now, the overall contribution. That was once much higher than 5% in the past. We know that when we have an open Fairmont Southampton Princess, it acts as economic hub. And so not just from a tourism perspective, but from also other retail and the wholesale industry and other industries that actually service and provide goods and services to the Fairmont Southampton. And then as a result, then we have to look at the indirect and induced benefit of the wages that will go to the employees of that particular establishment and them spending their money in our local economy as well.
Of course, thank you. And just lastly, government has implemented or encouraged various measures to lower the cost of living. Do you think Bermudians are feeling the tangible benefits?
I think in some areas, Bermudians can see the direct benefit of the initiatives that we have done to lower the cost of living. Across the board, Bermuda's cost of living does remain high. We do have a minister who is very much focused on trying as best as possible to insert policy measures in place that will lower the overall cost of living in Bermuda. This is an excellent segue into the work that we're doing pertaining to the budget. You know that during that period of time, the Minister of Finance will always look at ways in which we can reduce the tax burden on residents to increase their purchasing power so that they can have a better quality of life.
Thank you so much.
Good day, Minister. Alva from the Royal Gazette. I just want to continue, ask a question, follow up to my colleague on the Fairmont Southampton. In November, you mentioned that you were mindful of the labor force concerns, the shortage of labor. Are there any measures that are going to be considered by the government in the short term and long term? Considering that the hotel mentioned recently, as of this week, that works are progressing there.
Mm-hmm. And so, as it pertains to the short-term measures is to ensure that suitably qualified Bermudians are given an opportunity to work in that particular establishment. We do have the a hospitality subcommittee under the Workforce Development Advisory Board, and they will be looking at training and development initiatives in the short term and the long term for the particular industry. We will direct work from a ministry perspective directly with Fairmont Southampton to ensure that they have the staff they need so that they can have operational effectiveness when they open.
Do you have a timeline as to when these measures are going to be put into force or put in place?
We are working through those measures, some of those measures now. And so the subcommittee of the Workforce Development Advisory Board, they're active. We are having ongoing conversations with the hotel industry and representatives of the hotels regarding closed and restricted job categories and the tightness of the labor market in that sector. And then we're also having meaningful conversations with Bermuda College as well as it pertains to how we can continue hospitality training and development.
Okay, on the issue of employment, the International Labour Organization had published a report today that speaks of youth unemployment and the impact of artificial intelligence on the youths. Is there a plan in place by the government to monitor this situation as AI becomes a topical issue, and it's going to be like taking over a lot of jobs in most sectors across the world, especially in high-income countries?
And so we will monitor the employment briefs on an annual basis to look at labor market trends to determine whether or not there are measures that the government needs to put in place. But I would say, as it pertains to digitalization and automation, the government is mindful that our population is aging. And so where we find that it may become a risk to our economy, we will put measures in place to prevent the automation of some areas. And we have to talk about, when we have an aging society, about reasonable accommodation. We don't want to shift everything to digitized, and then we have an economy that our seniors cannot function in. And so it's mindful that we actually strike that balance, and those things that we are actually looking at. But as it pertains to youth unemployment, you will know after the pandemic, youth unemployment was up above 30%. We now have youth unemployment underneath 4%.
Do you have any updated figures to suggest the situation has improved? Like, for instance, 2020, 2025, 2020, any recent figures?
And so we did do an 2025 employment survey. Typically, the preliminary numbers of the employment survey get released in the National Economic Report that is associated with the budget. And so that will give us our latest estimates of the progression of jobs in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. There are no other questions from the media. That concludes the press conference. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.